Vande Devamumaapatim Suragurum Vande Jagatkaranam Vande Pannagabhushanam Mrigamadam Vande Pashunam Patim Vande Surya Sashanka Vanhinayanam Vande Mukunda Priyam Vande Bhakta Janashrayam Cha Varadam Vande Shivam Shankaram Vande Bhakta Janashrayam Cha Varadam Vande Shivam Shankaram. Let us chant Shiva Panchakshari Stotram together. Nagendra Haraya Trilochanaya Bhasmangaragaya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shuddhaya Digambaraya Tasmai Nakaraya Namah Shivaya Mandakini Salila Chandana Charchitaya Nandishwara Pramathanatha Maheshwaraya Mandara Pushpa Bahu Pushpa Supujitaya Tasmai Makaraya Namah Shivaya Shivaya Gauri Vadanabja Vrinda Suryaya Daksha Dhvaranashakaya Shri Neelakantaya Vrishadhvajaya Tasmai Shikaraya Namah Shivaya Vashishtha Kumbhodbhava Gautamarya Munindra Devarchita Shekharaya Chandrarka Vaishwanara Lochanaya Tasmai Vakaraya Namah Shivaya Om. The fourth verse of Shri Shiva Panchakshari Stotram begins with mentioning the names of three Rishis, three sages, Vashishtha, Kumbhodbhava, Agastya Muni and Gautama. These three Rishis are very, very significant in this spiritual knowledge tradition, the spiritual cultural civilization of India. They are looked upon as really the sages, the seers, the visionaries of the past. And when we say past, we mean really, really past, up to the beginning of creation. And these Rishis were very highly exalted human beings. These were beings who were embodiment of knowledge, of purity, of wisdom, of peace, of kindness, compassion. These were souls who lived for thousands of years, because they were people of penance and mastery. They knew to live in harmony with nature. They did not ever work to subjugate nature. In fact, it was the opposite. Their lives were earth-centric. They believed in the natural world. They lived with the natural powers of the elements. They were so pure in their penance, in their discipline, that they took very, very little from the world. So much so that nature being pleased with them, they were given gifts of seeing the unseen. They had mastered time and space. They knew how to cross time. They knew how to go to the past. They knew how to go to the future by living in the human form in the present. They had the capacity to travel worlds, celestial worlds. They could cross space by sitting in one place. They traveled to the higher worlds. They brought for us knowledge of the celestial beings through their penance, through their tapas. They not only brought the knowledge of the celestial beings like Yaksha, Kinnaras, Gandharvas, Apsaras, and so on, so forth, Nagas, so many, many, many races that existed in the higher worlds, and they brought us to earth for the humankind knowledge of all these higher worlds. Not only that, because they were able to tap nature and nature was conducive to them, they were able to give us the knowledge, the great ancient knowledge traditions. They knew the herbs, they understood the quality of the plants, the herbs, the bushes, the trees, the medicinal properties of the bountiful nature. They were in harmony. They were people who knew to live in harmony with the natural world. And so they gave us the knowledge of Ayurveda. They gave us the knowledge of the science of medicine, the science of surgery, the science of astronomy. They understood the influence of the planets in a human life. They gave us the science of astrology. They understood how time operated. What were good times? Why was a time a good time and not so good time? They had language. They gave us grammar. Panini was a great sage. Patanjali was another sage. Shushruta was another sage. They gave us knowledge of mathematics, of the decimal system, of the zero system. They gave us knowledge of traveling in airplanes. They gave us the knowledge of the ships, of metallurgy, of administration, of governance. And these rishis were not, they had disciplines from all sectors. In fact, they were the greatest gifts to humanity. Because they believed in giving to humanity, they believed in sharing. They believed in being kind, in bringing peace, in guiding. If in the human society there were souls who were causing destruction, like we have in Mahabharata the story of Ashwatthama, who releases the Brahmastra which can destroy the world, and I think it is sage Gautama who comes, Gautama or Vyas, sage Veda Vyas or Gautama, one of them, they come, I think it's Vyas, sage Vyas, who comes and blocks the destruction. And so these rishis had the power, and they used their power for the good of the humankind. And these rishis, it is important to understand, because their constructive powers that gave us the knowledge traditions were powers of genius. And so these people, they built their strength and power. They could be a simple sage in a king's kingdom, a Rajarshi, an advisor to a king, and they would move up, they would become a Rishi. Then because of more penance and control of their inner failings and smaller world, such as our anger, anxiety, jealousy, competition, desires, passions, the more they were able to control their negative emotions, they gained more and more power. From a Rishi became a Maharshi became a Brahma Rishi. Like this, the first, these great exalted beings, the human beings, who lived in penance and worked for peace and prosperity of the natural world system, natural world. That's why in ancient literature we see how the animals came to them. They talked to them, they looked out for the animals. They lived in the forest, they were not afraid of the beasts, the beings, because they knew what was harmony. And these rishis were either alone or they were married. If they were married, their partners were rishikas. And so we have, in the tradition, we hear of the single rishis to be 88 in number. They are called Ekaki rishis. We hear of Grahastha rishis, there were 43 families, or 315 rishis are enlisted. The researchers have done this work. They talk about the female rishis, 37 of them. There again we have Ekaki, the single women who were rishis, and there were 8 of them. And the Grahastha rishis are talked about as 13. So like this, the Rig Veda talks about, it declares something like 403 rishis in the Rig Veda. And so we need to know these rishis are these souls that are being described here. And those who were grahasthas, householders, they had their descendants. And the descendant, those of us who consider ourselves descendants of the Rishi lineage, there were 10 lineages, they're called 10 descendants. Lineage is traced to 10 rishis, like Marichi, Bhrigu, Angiras, Atri, Vashishta, Vishwamitra, Agastya, Pulastya, Pulaha, and Kratu. It's not important that you know these names. It's important that you know that these rishis, their descendants, maybe some of them had 5 rishi descendants, some had 13 rishi descendants, some had 8 further more rishi descendants, and they formed these different gotras called Pravara Gotras. And so the descendants of rishis are gotras. Many of the families we know are descendants, rishi descendants. It is not to show off that I am a rishi descendant, it comes with a huge responsibility. It comes with a responsibility if your forefather was a tapasvi, a person of penance, who gave us this knowledge of how to live in harmony with nature, how to connect to the natural world systems, how to understand interconnectedness of the earth with the water, with the fire, and so on, so forth, with air, with all the life forms on earth. Well, whether you are direct descendants of a rishi or you are not, it does not matter. What matters is taking this knowledge tradition, understanding the ecology, and living in peace with nature. I'm sure all of you have been receiving many WhatsApp clips with this deer just jumping near the ocean, like the rarest of rare deer being spotted, which have never been spotted, lying on the roads on the Ooty road going to the hill station from Coimbatore, or the elephant herds walking on the path freely without fear, or the dancing peacocks, and so many WhatsApp clips are moving where nature seems to be feeling free, not suffocated. While we admire the animals and the birds, I also feel very sad. Sad that they cannot do this when we are around. Sad that they are afraid of humankind. Sad that they run away, go into hidings. The chirping birds, the sparrows and all have disappeared from civilization. You have to come to ashrams like ours and other forest areas to hear the birds. Why? Because we have not even bothered to know that they exist and they also need to live. The greatest message, the biggest message for us in this quote, in the 4th verse of Shiva Panchakshari Stotram, is to understand that rishis were people of deep interconnectedness with the natural world and the 5 elements, and they could speak to nature and nature spoke to them back. They could ask for knowledge, they could teach us how to live healthy. They taught us how to live healthy, how to sleep healthy, how to work healthy, how to be disciplined. If you look at the knowledge tradition, all these teachings are given by the rishis alone. And it is said that those who kept working for the humankind, for peace, prosperity, to elevate the pain and suffering of human beings, many of them had so many powers that they lived, they were beyond time and space. They had time and space in their hands, and therefore they could live a whole manvantara. The Indian time system, understand, the time system is not merely calculated based on human time, Our human time is integrated into ancestral time, time of lived by the dead ancestors, and further into the time of the devas, of the deities, of the celestials, of the higher planes. And thus time for us is cosmic time, time when the whole universe came into existence, and therefore it goes into yugas, or hundreds of thousands of years. And it is said that in one yuga, which has the four, the Chatur Yuga, when there is 71 Chatur Yugas, you get one Manvantara. Those of you who don't understand, if this looks Greek and Latin, just relax for 2 minutes. I'm inspired to cross this, write this with you. So allow me, please. And like this, there is one Mantara of 71 Chatur Yugas. And 14 such Manvantara makes up one day of Brahmaji, one Kalpa. The creator. And so here, in a Manvantara, there is a Manu who rules who holds the order of the universe together. The omniscient being that holds the order together is a Manu. Vaivasvata Manvantara is our Manvantara. And hence in the Bhagavad Gita we say, Vaivasvate, Bhagavan says, I gave it to Vivaswan. Vivaswan manave praha, manu ikshvakave bravit, evam parampara praptam. This knowledge is been given to the sun god Vivaswan, and from there it has come to Manu. And like this it has come down. And so in the celestial worlds we have Rishis, sages, who are living eternally in a whole creation. They live in one entire Manvantara, they live for thousands and lakhs of years. And those Rishis are called Sapta Rishis, the 7 Rishis of the celestial worlds. In every creation, because creation is a cycle, in every creation the Sapta Rishis change. Like the Manu changes, the Sapta Rishi also changes. In our world today, of the 7 Rishis, the 7 Rishis are Atri, Bharadwaja, Gautama, Jamadagni, Kashyapa, Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. These are the 7 celestial Rishis in the celestial worlds, sending their protection, their rays, their peace, their knowledge to the people, those who have their receptivity. Those whose minds are receptive are able to receive messages from the higher worlds, is it not? And out of those 7 Rishis, 2 of them are quoted here, Vasishtha and Gautama. And the 3rd Rishi quoted is Kumbhodbhava. Kumbhodbhava is Agastya Rishi, who is not one of the Sapta Rishi in this Manvantara, in Vaivasvata Manvantara, in this creation, this time frame, but he was one of the Sapta Rishis in a previous time frame, in one of the earlier Manvantaras. And therefore, 3 most exalted Rishis, sages, seers are described, and it is said, all of them, these Munindraha, all these great sages, and not only they, these great sages who bring so much knowledge tradition, not only they, even the devas, the higher powers which are higher than these rishis, all of them worship what? Shekharaya. And therefore, Archita Shekharaya, Devarchita Shekharaya, they worship the divine being, the cosmic being, Lord Shiva. They worship his crown, so to speak. And so here, before you ask me a question, why these three are selected? Well, they have to select something out of the seven. And Vasishtha is looked upon as a very highly exalted Rishi. His grandchild is Parashara. His great-grandchild is Veda Vyasa. His great-great-grandchild is Shuka. These are great rishis in his lineage. And so Vasishtha is said to be born of Lord Brahmaji's willpower. So he was one who was born with all knowledge. And it is said he was the Rajaguru of the two royal dynasties of Surya, the sun dynasty and the moon dynasty. Well, he was the king of both these dynasties. In fact, he was the guru of Lord Sri Rama. And in every stage in Sri Rama's life, you find Vasishtha's sages' hands and protection. So many episodes are there about how Vasishtha protects not only Lord Rama, he protects Bhagirath Muni. When he is unable to get Gangaji, he gives the mantra to Bhagirath Raja. He helps Raja Dilipa. And like this, there are many stories of sage Vasishtha. And his Rishika, her name is Arundhati. In Indian marriages, when couples come together, they are asked to look at the Vasishtha and Arundhati's bond and impeccable loyalty to each other. They hold each other as one, Vasishtha Arundhati. And so the couple is asked to look into the skies. Unfortunately, they're asked to look into the skies at 10 a.m. in the morning, and they don't see any star, but they are there. It's symbolic. And similarly, Agastya was a great Muni, a great sage. There is so much about Agastya, not only Agastya Muni, but also Lopamudra, his wife, the Rishika. She was a seer of so many Veda mantras. And so here we have Agastya's achievements are phenomenal. He gives Aditya Hridayam to Sri Rama when he is to fight in the war with Lord Ravana and is disheartened when he is unable to kill him. Every time Ravana's 10 heads, one head falls, the next one comes up. And Sri Rama gets disheartened, and Agastya Muni comes and gives him this Aditya Hridayam to energize him, to pray to the divine sun god and receive his blessings and then strike the enemy. An enemy is struck and Ravana is destroyed. Agastya Muni is also said to be one who composed Lalita Sahasranama given to us by Lord Hayagriva. So like this, he is considered to be the father of the Tamil. He's a father of Siddha medicine, of Tamil language, so on and so forth. There is so much for Agastya Muni, and so is Gautama. Gautama Muni also, he lived in Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga. He lived in two yugas, long life that he had. He married Ahalya, another Rishika, and he blesses, he is the one who tells this Dronacharya. When Dronacharya creates so much havoc in the war against the Pandavas, Gautama goes and tells him, you are fighting against Dharma, Drona. This is not good for you, give up. And after that, Dronacharya drops his weapon. Of course, we have another episode there, but Gautama Rishi plays a significant part. And so you find these rishis always helped human beings, helped the kings, the kingdoms in running their society. And so here, well, we may not have active rishis in our society of that high penance seen by us, but they live in the subtle worlds. We invoke their grace too, as they invoke the grace of the cosmic being. And who is the cosmic being? He is one who has who is all luminary. All luminary is his expression. The Chandra, the moon, the Arka, the sun, and Vaishwanara, the fire. These three are whose eyes. His radiance comes through these three eyes, through the universe, above and on earth, unto that Lord Shiva, represented by the syllable Vakara, Va, unto him, who is prayed to by even the highest, a most exalted human beings called the Rishis, the sages. Even they worship the divine being. Unto that Lord Shiva, my namaskara. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.